will protect Earth.
Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another video. One that may be a little bit late, but I did pull this guy a little bit late, and that is of course Future Gohan. Carnival Future Gohan, who took me many summons to get, was a massive reason as to why I managed to actually beat Fusion Zamasu. And we're going to be using him in this video right now. As I said, yes, is it a little bit late? I have used him against Fusion Zamasu, but I'm like, why not? Just because I've actually only used him to do, I think, one of the Fusion Zamasu runs. This is 900k on a super, by the way, pre-super. That's not bad. Just getting hit with that turn 1 on one of the hardest hitting enemies, like one of the quicker hitting, like harder hitting enemies, like there's no build up to him hitting hard, he just does it. It's not bad, especially because mine's at 55%. But because it took me so long, and I only actually used him, I think, to beat one of the missions, or yeah, one of the missions maybe, and actually beat Fusion Zamasu in general, other than that, I haven't really tested him out. So instead of run him through the entirety of Red Zone, which we know he'll be good in, I'm just going to start him in the Shadow Dragon event, and then I'm going to specifically do a video on him, or a showcase on him, against Fusion Zamasu and why he's good. Just because he is that good. And we've already seen him against Fusion Zamasu. The Fusion Zamasu showcase videos are generally going to be, it's going to be the same as the Shadow Dragon SYN stage as well, in terms of showcasing units there, whereas there's going to be some repeat offenders that pop up who may not have had a video yet, may have already had one, just because they are that good. One thing I love about him, which you don't get to see too much against Fusion Zamasu just because you are beating the event so quickly, is this Future Gohan stacking. And he's not just stacking by 30, 50%. On 18 key, which is so easy to get, he's stacking by 100%. Which at 55% is incredibly useful. Now I'm going to do that early just because of Tech Trunks. And then Vegeta and Trunks can kind of build up with little worry. And I do need to build my HP back up for that Future Gohan to transform. But 100% is a lot. So even at 55%, where he's not going to be doing the most damage, we don't have too many options or outlets to crit. He does have built-in additionals, which is nice. But it does mean he can build up some damage fairly easily. And of course, the 50% defense he gets on Super as well is also very nice at helping him tank. The same way he gets 50% on 12 and then raises his defense by 30% on 12. On the 12 key Super as well. But then combined with the additionals, that's a ton of defense along with his damage reduction, which of course from his entrance animation, which I haven't actually seen too much. Like as I said, I've literally used him against Fusion Zamasu to beat the event, and then I haven't really used him too much outside of that, apart from like showcasing other units, and of course the animations are turned off. So even this guy is so good, I haven't really used him that much outside of those videos. But of course, from his entrance animation, he's getting key plus 5, which is helping him get the 18 key off a lot, which is great. It's exactly what we want. He's also getting 40% damage reduction for 5 turns, which is really good. If this was like a year or two ago, I might have said, do you know what, 5 turns is really nice, but it's a shame he loses that. But because of how down the extreme pathway we've gone down with short form, hard hitting content with Shadow Dragon SYN, Shadow Dragon Omega, which of course will eventually get in a few months on Global, but then also recently with Red Zone Fusion Zamasu, him having 40% damage reduction for 4 turns is actually like perfect for the content that we currently have, with how extremely short and difficult it is, because it means he actually has it for the majority of the fight. It means he pretty much has it for the entirety, and you may see him for 1 turn without it, or once he loses it, you'll be in the final turn and he hasn't even come back once he's lost it yet. So that is his entrance animation, literally kind of fulfills him for the entire fight majority of the time, which is great because it means he's constantly performing pretty much at his best. Then, of course, we're going to build his ki up to 5 and get attack and defense up to 100% with each type performed. So that's ki +1 and 20% attack and defense each time he performs an attack, which is good because he has built-in additionals. And then, of course, he just has the 20% damage reduction, which, you know, in slot 2, 20% damage reduction with a 50% defense raised and additional supers for an extra 30, which can go up to 2. If you have dupes, another one, that could be 3, 4 supers in total. That's good enough. But again, because we've gone down such an extreme pathway of like short form content and, you know, really hard hitting short form content, that means Carnival LR Gohan constantly has 40% damage reduction for the 5 turns, but because of how short the content is, he pretty much has it for the entire fight. But that's 40% damage reduction with his base 20% damage reduction. So that means for the entirety of the fight, even though it is the 40% is only there for 5 turns, but for the majority of this short form content, he has 60% damage reduction, which is fantastic. Which means even at 55%, even with mine with no dupes, he's tanking the hardest enemies in the game, which we've seen briefly from Fusion Zamasu will range to Cooler Core and no doubtably Shadow Dragon, SYN, and Omega. He's tanking the hardest enemies in the game at all times for next to nothing. And as I said, while 5 turns of damage reduction is very good, it is, because of how extremely short and difficult the content is right now, with the path we're going down, he has it for the majority of the fight. And eventually when he loses it, he's still very good defensively. Obviously nowhere near as good as long as he has that entrance animation up. But even without it, as I said, once he loses it, the final turn will probably be, and we've got his domain, which is great. His final turn will probably be where he's not on rotation, so you don't even notice it. And the other thing that I really do like about him, and I said this when he initially got revealed, was his domain conditions. They're so easy to activate. Like, they are so good. So good. Like, he will literally create it from the 5th turn with no condition, no restriction. Just from turn 5, he'll activate it. Which means just before the end of the fight, you know, a lot of the time, again, with the kind of route we're going with difficult content, we actually have his active skill, which is another thing which is great, because once he activates his domain, or once his domain becomes active, because it's automatic, his active skill will be ready as well. Which I love how well this works hand in hand, because his domain happens from the 5th turn. Once his domain's active, of course, you do increased damage to extreme class enemies and allies, but more so enemies by 30%. And then immediately his active skill becomes ready to activate as well, because it only triggers once you get his domain. So it just ends up working out so well hand in hand, which means you're doing a ton of damage to extreme type enemies, which of what all the difficult enemies are in the game. They're all extreme type enemies. I'm actually going to pop this just because we do have tightness advantage right now, and I kind of want to get through this one quickly, considering how low our health is. So I am going to pop this right now.
I will defeat you!
Stop acting like a pampered baby, Gohan!
I know you've got more power in you!
Big 7.6 million crit. One thing as well, which is kind of the cherry on top with this unit, is 375k defense. And that is still with all of his damage reduction. This is the final turn of that 40% damage reduction and ki +5 from the entrance animation. So now, right now, we have 375k defense from the Easy 8 Int Future Gohan support. And we have 60% damage reduction. But yeah, one thing that is kind of the cherry on top for me is I do generally think, for me anyway, you can let me know yours down in the comments, of course, double digits, even before he's super attacked, even before he's raised his defense. One thing for me is, I have to say, Future Gohan's active skill probably has to be one of my favorites in the game. That is just the cherry on top with this unit. But his kit is just so good. Like, and I know a lot of you already know that and you've seen showcase videos on him. This is more for me just because, again, I pulled him so late and just used him to complete, like, you know, the Fusion Zamasu event or the stage and then dipped. But one thing I love about his kit is just how cohesively well it works together. Like, as I said, you have the entrance animation, which means he has 60% damage reduction pretty much for the majority of a fight because of how extremely short and difficult content is right now. You know, his domain activates from turn 5 no matter what, no condition, which is great. Extreme enemies are taking 30% more damage, which is good because every difficult enemy in the game is extreme. And then because his domain is active, you can then use his active skill. He would have been stacking the entire time as well, which means he's doing more damage. It just works hand in hand. Not only that as well, he gets a guaranteed crit on 24 key or active skill, which means he's doing even more damage. Like, it all complements each other so nicely. Like, so nicely. I'm going to pop the friend one as well, just because why not? But it just all works so well hand in hand. It's like a machine. All the cogs are just moving just in the right parts. It just is. And not only that, which I actually forgot he has this, the extra 20% damage reduction as long as you have 18 ki or more, which also his additional super kicks in there as well, which has a 50% chance of doing so. But the extra 20% damage reduction from doing and having 18 ki or more. So that means for, again, the majority of difficult content, future Gohan is going to have a total of 80% damage reduction. Even when you lose the 40 after the 5 times, which again, you're probably not going to see too often, he will still have 40 as long as you're getting 18 ki or more. Like, this Gohan, I'm going to pop a Whis because the AoEs, because of Trunks. But this Gohan generally has so much going for him, even at 55%, because not only is he doing, or can he do, possibly, some very good damage because of the stacking. Defensively, he's amazing, even without his entrance animation, but with it, he's kind of indestructible. While doing as much damage as he does, his domain's amazing because it's effective against every difficult enemy in the game. And his 200% lead has come off the back of Worldwide, where Future Saga has been buffed so much. So this Future Gohan, to me, has to be probably the best unit in the game, just because he has everything going for him. As I said, from damage, to defense, to domain, to team building, to links, he just ticks every single box. Even at 55%, I mean, you're seeing it now. I've seen it briefly before. He's insanely good. Insanely good. As I said, I haven't actually used him too much, so we're going to see how he fares. Like, Shadow Dragon SYN and Shadow Dragon Omega are actually on the longer side with the way content is going right now. They're actually a little bit longer than what we've seen from the majority of content recently, so we're actually going to see Gohan a lot more without his entrance animation buff. So we've lost the key plus 5, we've lost the extra 40% damage reduction, which is fine. Because even though we've lost it, Shadow Dragon SYN himself is almost dead because we're doing so much damage. Because of Future Gohan's domain, the friend Future Gohan, my Future Gohan, and then everyone else's damage piled on top. So even one of like the longer stages in the game has been reduced to being a lot shorter than he typically is. But this is as long as it's pretty much going to get when it comes to content nowadays. Or right now anyway. Do I pop that? Do I need to pop that? I'm gonna pop it. I don't want to not use it because I like using it. Of course, the guaranteed additional at 20 ki or more, which while you're getting key plus 5 from the entrance animation, is just so easy to potentially pop off with 2 additional super, or 2 supers at least in one turn, and then the one built in, which is a 50% chance, but that means you're potentially stacking his attack 2-3 times in one turn and raising his defense from 50% to an extra 30 to another 30 on top of it. Like, as I said, this was a showcase kind of for me because I didn't really get to test him out everywhere. Like, I just used him against Fusions and Master and then just didn't use him. Oh, we can get some health back here as well. I would use his active skill, but I don't want to. I don't want to. We have a Whis active right now, which means Gohan is untouchable. Gohan is untouchable. Because even though we've lost the entrance animation, we've also got 24 ki. So we've got the 20% damage reduction from that. We've got the 20% damage reduction that's built in. And then, not only that, we've got a Whis active, which means we have a total of 80% damage reduction right now. That means if you were to, not that you need to, but if you were to use an item with Carnival or Future Gohan, right? If you were to use an item with him while his entrance animation is up, you will literally have full damage reduction where no attack in the game will touch him. No matter how hard the super attack hits, it will not hurt him, which is wild. And that is before you factor in him building up his passive, before you factor in him raising his defense on super. He will literally be untouchable to every enemy. Please dodge. I kind of want Gohan to super attack. That's tough. That's actually tough. VB didn't want to dodge whatsoever. He didn't want to dodge whatsoever. I really wanted to see where his super attack was up to, but VB just didn't want to dodge. Like, he is just generally the best unit in the game. Like, as I said, for me, everything going for him. From damage or potential damage output, to defense, to even the amount of damage he can do in one turn because of his additionals, the built-in crit on 24, how easy it is to link him, team building, the domain. He has everything going for him, and just to top it off for me, which I know a lot of people agreed with me when I streamed his animations, his active skill probably has to be one of the best look in the entire game. For a Dokkan original, it's top tier. As I said, even though he's already been out for a bit and that we've seen him showcased already, this is more for me because I haven't really got to use him that much outside of my initial Fusion Zamasu run. But you can still let me know what you think of him down in the comments. Let me know your thoughts. I'll see you in the next video, guys. Take care of the rest of your day, though, and peace.